Hi, my name is Jonathan Hicks. I'm back at the Dice Cup, and this evening I'm joined by
Steve.
Patrick.
Noah.
and we just finished playing Castle of Mind, which is a two-player abstract game. We've all played it, obviously not together, because you can only play two people at once. And it looks a bit complicated, but essentially you've got rings, which are all the pieces on this half of the board, and dots, which all got the black around the outside, which are all the pieces on that side. So one player takes all the dots and one player takes all the rings, and you're trying to get one of your red pieces. You see you've got 3 red pieces into the center red spot. First player to do that wins the game. There is another way you can win though. If you manage to capture your 3 opponents' red pieces, well obviously they can't ever get their red piece to the middle, so you win the game that way as well. How do you capture a piece? Well, on your go you move one of your pieces. So maybe I decide to move this to here. You can go kind of diagonally, but effectively one space. That'd be one. My next move I could go here, etc. But you move one, and then your opponent, Steve, decides he's going to move one. And then I could move this one again, and then Steve moves one. Now what I'm trying to do is get my green piece to a green square, because now it's my go. If I move my green piece onto a green square, I can capture any piece of Steve's that's on a green square. Now this one actually started on a green square, but obviously there's a lot of green squares here already, so I might decide he's moved this blue one on, maybe he wants to do something, so I'll capture it and it comes off the board. And then it's Steve's go and he moves something. Now what I'd like to do is obviously capture his other green piece, all the pieces on a green space here, but you can't, if you're already on green, move to another green. So in order to capture that one, I'd have to move off this one first, and then he's like, now I can move back on the capture, so he's got to move his piece off there. Pieces do block each other though, so if I'm here and Steve's coming down, he couldn't move his yellow piece onto this space. He could though, obviously moves it onto this space, and when he does that, he could capture any of my pieces that are on yellow. So it's a little bit of a brain strain to start with. It's like, hang on, this coloured piece needs to get to that colour square, but then it captures any piece on the other coloured square. But hopefully that makes sense. When the coloured piece of yours goes onto the matching square, you capture anything on the opponent's squares of that colour, if you like. So you can see the way the colours have been arranged. Like the blue pieces start off a long way from the blue, and the white pieces start a long way from the white, and obviously the red pieces a long way from the centre. But you're just taking it in turns backwards and forwards, capturing, trying to get your red pieces to the centre. But a lot of it, I think, is about trying to make sure your pieces are kind of ready to pounce, if you like. If you're next to a green, then that makes green very dangerous for your opponent. Equally, you want to kind of get your blue pieces next to a blue. So yeah, what do we think?
It looks harder than it is. The instructions for the game are quite simple. You just move a space and you can capture it in colours. And you think, oh, but okay, that's much simpler than this. And then when you get to playing it, it's then more complicated than the rules make it out to be. There are, like, okay, if I do that, then if he takes me there, then I can take him. But then he can take me with this colour, so I need to do that. I've seen both ways of winning, all 3 red pieces going, but more frequently your opponent can get to the centre without you taking them, and it seems to be one of the ways to do well is to capture all of your opponent's pieces of one particular colour. So if you get all their white pieces or all their blue pieces, then for you white or then blue are safe spaces to go, and if you've got places that are safe on the board, you don't need to worry. There's a lot more to think about than you think, because there's like every player's got like 15 pieces or something like that, and all of them are taking different colours from different places on the board. There's a lot to be aware of, and so if you've got that kind of like, you can quickly look at a board and think, okay, what colour's safe for me? Can I go there? You'll do better than someone who kind of maybe just focuses on the pieces he's moving, not what his opponent can do to you. Tactically it's good. I think I prefer there to be a better distinguishing mark between the pieces. I was fine with it, but I can imagine that some people might not be.
Patrick?
I found this game to be quite a bit of a challenge, and I don't mind challenges. It's very, very colourful. I think that maybe it could have been a little bit more clearer as to who is which one. I know that when you look at it, dots and rings, but once they start getting mixed up a little bit, it becomes tantamount to more of a castle of cognitive therapy than anything else. So, yeah, I don't mind it, but it's also one that leaves you scratching your head for quite some time.
All right, Noah?
It's a good game, and I think to some people it would really appeal, and the rules are fairly simple, so it's easy to get your grasp on it, easy to understand. The only problem for me is the amount of pieces there is, because the thing is, because there's so many pieces, there's so much to think about. So you've got to think about what can that piece do. And for me, you could sit down and go through think about what every piece could do, but it's just too long for it to actually be enjoyable for me. But I feel like you kind of have to think hard to properly do well in it. So this one's not for me, I think.
Rating?
5.
Patrick?
6.
As long as there is an advantage to going first, which you haven't played enough games to it, it's a good tactical game. You can draw though, so I'm probably going to give it 7.
Okay. Yeah, it is definitely a good game. There's a graphical design issue, I think. It is very tricky telling apart the two sides. One with the rings, one with the dots, because essentially every piece has a ring and a dot. And the colours keep varying, as they've all said really. It's very tricky, particularly your first couple of games, just keep track of all the pieces. Once you get the hang of it, I don't think that'll be an issue. And in terms of actually playing the game, there's lots of interesting thoughts, decision processes, if you like, that you're going to be going through. So much like chess, the whole double attack thing is quite important. That whole chain of, if I move this here, he takes that, but if I force him to take another piece first, it's very difficult to take twice in a row. So you can kind of get one of your rubbish pieces taken, if you like, to move the really important piece forward onto the space that otherwise would have been dangerous. So there's a lot of interesting decisions there, I think. So yeah, plenty of meat to this one. In terms of my enjoyment playing the game, I think I'll be on a 6.5. But if you really got into it, I think, as a heavy abstract gamer, you may well rate it quite a bit higher than that. All right, thanks for watching. That was Castle of Mind.